Hi.
Good afternoon.
Hi. Okay. That worked out pretty well. Okay, so I'm recording this and I will upload it to YouTube, the link to YouTube, just for you as a private link in case you want to look at it. Um, you don't have to, but or maybe I'll make it open so if somebody from CUK, like the administration, wants to see that what we do here. Because I used to meet with the students in the room, and nobody's coming to campus these days, or very rarely. Although there was lot of people here this morning for some reason. It was really noisy. I was surprised. That was the first time I've heard all that noise in a year and a half, it seems, which was nice to hear it again. Okay, so let me open up your paper and let me share the screen um, and so and go through the paper. I don't know if I had you last semester. Were you in my class last semester? Do you remember if you were in my class last semester?
Yeah, I was.
Okay, so you know what we're doing here. Okay,
Uh-huh.
so and okay, so I don't. I like to typically let the students choose, the wording that they would like to use because one of the functions that of these exercises to help you polish your wonderful English to make it even better than it already is. So, and the way to help you with that is to make suggestions as to how you might choose to polish the phrase to make it a little perfect better. So that's why I offered like two choices. Either one's okay. So so I'll ask you which one you choose, and of course you can change your mind. And then I will send this to you again after we're done, so that you have a second copy of it, and with the revisions or changes or comments that we make here. So yeah, let me see what I remember. Yeah, so yeah, check plus means that's really good. I mean, I was impressed with the first draft. And so you write here, Europeanization will emphasize the importance of European identity than existing national identities. And okay, that's your statement, that's your thesis statement. And you write, the member states are the most important actors in European Union and its policymaking process. And of course, EU politics are heavily constrained by domestic politics. That's true, but it is not something negative to the European or the EU's policymaking process. And I mention that because this is often an issue that students forget the that goes before European Union, the European Union, or the
So in the first line, I should write the member states are the most important actors in the European Union also.
yeah, good. In the European Union, in the European Union, yeah, and it's possible, and of course, EU politics are heavily good. But it is not something negative to the European or the EU's policymaking process. So, which do you prefer? Either one is okay.
I'll look it over
Okay,
after the session.
okay. Because and again, just the preposition issue. Learning English prepositions like from or in or to or towards. That comes with practice. Someone who was an English writer professor told me that what he advised students when I was in Bulgaria, he told them they should read fun magazine articles to get lots of experience working with prepositions, like when do you use in or to or towards or for or from, right? So he used possibly because or in the first place, the or to begin with to begin the. So again, you might want to choose, because in the first place, the European Union, or because to begin the European Union. So either one's okay. And if you want to tell me which one you want, you can tell me, or I'll just let you choose on your own. European Union exists or function. I understood everything you were writing. I mean, I understood everything you were writing. It's just a matter of making you sound more like a native speaker. That's all. You already are able to do business in English, no problem. It's just a matter of, making you speak like a native speaker, which, I happen to be because I'm a native speaker. So the European Union exists or functions.
I think functions sounds more
okay.
natural.
I won't cut that out. I'll just cross through it. And
Yeah.
of course, you can go through and fix it up later on your own to make the member states to become greater countries at or on. Either one's okay. So, you can tell me, or I could just let you choose one.
I think on sounds better.
Okay, you want to, so on the global level, like that, on the global level, politically and economically. So, yeah, here you don't need the, because it's using EU as a modifier itself. So you say EU politics and member states politics have become closely related, which has made member states to interact very closely with each other. Okay, this made
So I have to use the article when I'm saying European Union, but I don't have to use it when I say
well,
EU.
it depends what you use when you use European Union as an adjective. You don't need necessarily to use the. So because you're using European Union here as an adjective to modify the noun politics, right? So if you're talking about European Union as a thing, as a noun, as a subject, you're saying the European Union. If you're going to rephrase this and say the politics of the European Union and member states politics and the politics of the member states have become closely related. So in that case, but when you use EU politics, EU, you're using it as an adjective modifying this noun politics. Similarly, using this as an adjective modifying politics. So I can't remember what the term is. A gerund? No. These are these English linguistic terms I learned when I was in school. I can't remember what they are, but have become closely related, which has made member states to interact very closely with each other. This made the people or the peoples of Europe. So, I mean, either one's okay. You can choose one of Europe to think they are Europeans as much as they think themselves as Germans, French, etc. Okay, yeah. Clearly, however, it didn't work. You already saw my comments, right? So I said, okay, interesting, good point. But clearly, the majority of the people of the European Union did not share this view, as the Brexit referendum result showed. Your point may be true regarding the elite of the European Union, the people that are in the government, the people that are at the top of the economic system, most of them, and not all of them, most of them, the people that are at the top of the cultural system, the people that are at the top of the elite. They might have this view, but the mass of the population, the mass public, the people that are at the bottom of that pyramid, right, who don't pay close attention to politics, who do not understand how closely interdependent their well-being is with the rest of the world, even though, of course, it is interdependent, but they don't understand that, right? You ask them their opinion, and particularly in a political campaign where you have demagogic politicians exploiting nationalism for their own personal power and fame ambitions, and also they're often also hostile to the European Union because some people are just naturally nationalistic, no matter how much education they have, right? I mean, just because somebody has a PhD doesn't mean they're automatically not nationalistic. I mean, there's a correlation between education and tolerance, a correlation between level of education and globalization and outlook, but it's not necessarily a causation. I mean, I was just watching one of those Mark Felton, some of those segments by Mark Felton again last night in my room, and right, they kept mentioning Dr. Joseph Goebbels, Dr. Joseph Goebbels, Dr. Joseph Goebbels, Hitler's propaganda minister. He had a PhD. Dr. Joseph Mengele, who did all those experiments in Auschwitz, on murderous, horrible biological torturing of people at Auschwitz. He was a doctor. He had a PhD in philosophy. There were PhDs all through the Nazi system, right? High-level people, all right? But clearly, when you talk about millions of people, the more education people have, the more likely they're going to be more cosmopolitan, more globalized in their outlook. But we can't make the assumption that the French are somehow more cosmopolitan among the mass public, more globalized among the mass public. I mean, remember, they did reject the Constitution draft treaty of the European Union in 2005 in a referendum in France. And they did it in the Netherlands too, as I point out here, right? Founding members of the European Coal and Steel Community rejected the draft constitution. So they might not be that much different from the British public. It's just that among the elite in the Netherlands and elite in France, there are overall more pro-European than the British elite. And so the British elite in the Conservative Party was a big faction that were really strongly anti-European Union. But it's hard to find those people in the main parties. Well, it's not hard, but they're not as powerful or influential in Germany or France in main establishment parties there. But, so yeah, I just want to make that point. I mean, and even Emmanuel Macron, president of France, he made that point in a comment a couple months ago or a few months ago. He said if the French had a referendum like on staying in the European Union like the British did, they might well have voted to leave. And for that reason, as I mentioned in class, right, it's really interesting how the European Union since 2009 has not had any more national referendums on expanding the power of the European Union institutions. There was one referendum in the Netherlands, which the government did not organize. An anti-government party organized on whether or not Ukraine should be allowed to have a free trade agreement with the European Union. And they did it on their own. It wasn't government supported, and the government didn't listen to it anyway. But they won't have referendums on treaties anymore in the European Union because the mass of the population in these countries are nationalistic, just like the British mass public is. And they might, and their opinions change over time. I mean, like I told you, right, I remember back in 1991, 1992, public opinion surveys in France said, over 70%, 77% of French people say that they support the new Maastricht Treaty to create the European Union, the Treaty of Maastricht. And then the campaign started for the referendum, the debate, discussion, and fighting and political struggle over how to vote in the referendum campaign. And you had these people appealing to the French public, scaring them, warning them that their jobs are going to be lost when all of these people come from other parts of Eastern Europe into their country. And it barely passed. The Maastricht Treaty barely passed by I think a half a percentage point or some low percentage point. So the public opinion support dropped from over 70% to 50%. Over the course of a month or whatever. So, and that's something to keep in mind. This European Union project is an elite-driven project. It's driven by people like you and me. So going on here, member states in getting involved in European policy making process. So missed that. What goes here? Oh. In the European policymaking process is very important because it will lead nations to unite and consider themselves as one team. National government and their officials form their interests through repeated interaction at the European level. Okay, yeah, the elite, right? Defining ones or a member states, either one's okay. Just again to polish that up a bit, I can let you choose whatever you want to do. Remains as a very important matter, but the member states know that if they start to think at the European level, I say run on. A sentence should not be longer than 2 text lines in length, and each sentence should contain 1 point. So I suggest you break it here. Defining one's own national interest remains a very important matter, but the member states know that if they start to think at the European level, well, I should do that as well. Okay. You can break it up into more than 2 sentences. The member states know that if they start thinking, it will, I messed that up. It will benefit themselves in the end because they are the ones who are guiding the process. Cooperating with other established member states will benefit each other, and this positive process will emphasize how great the European Union or the European Union is. Yeah, and they understand that. I mean, that's what I think was going on. You know, these elites in France and Germany and Italy, they talk to each other. They live in a world where they only talk to each other. You know, they don't talk to steel workers and coal miners and waitresses that's not their world. Their world is each other, and it's human nature for me to assume that if I'm not analyzing something, analyzing the outside world closely, I'm going to slip into making the mistake of assuming that everybody's like me, like us. And then they get shocked when, oh my gosh, the French voters voted down the draft European Union Constitution Treaty. Oh my gosh. So, so the positive effects of the European Union will naturally give positive image to the European Union. Oh, what goes here? And you know, you do want to make this process reach deeper and deeper and deeper down into the public of the European Union. So, like, everybody in Europe has to study foreign languages. You at least have to try. Like in South Korea, right? This is one of the most globalized places in the world. All Korean kids have to start studying English in grade school, right? Now, that doesn't mean they do well at it. That doesn't mean that everybody's able to do it, but they have to try, right? And that's true in Europe. And more and more young people, particularly students, travel across the boundaries and borders in Europe. They go to college in other countries, and typically they have to take those courses. Like, if you go to a German university and you want to major in political science, you're going to take at least the last 2 years of your political science courses at that German university in English, right? So everybody studies English, and they learn English well enough, like you do, to go to a German university from Bulgaria and get a political science degree in political science at a German university, even though their German might not be so good, or it gets better, right? And then that boy from Bulgaria, he meets at that German university, let's say a nice Estonian girl, and in class, and they get married, let's say, and they both get a job. They both get jobs, and they go move to in a European company. Let's say they get a job in a German company in Siemens Corporation, in the Siemens affiliate in Portugal, in Lisbon. So they move to Lisbon. They're an Estonian and a Bulgarian girl and boy. They have a child. They have children, and they're living in Lisbon, in Portugal. And they send that child, and they speak in English, or they speak in Bulgarian and Estonian to that child, and that child goes to a school where they all the classes are taught in English. What kind of person is that child going to grow up to be in terms of their national identity? They could become a militant Bulgarian nationalist or a militant Estonian nationalist. But more likely is that they're going to feel European, right? And that's going to happen more and more and more in Europe. The key indicator, I think, is marriage between different nationalities in Europe. That's the indicator. Germans marrying French, Estonians marrying Bulgarians, that kind of intermarriage. That's the key indicator, right? But that takes a long time. That'll take, what, 100 years, 150 years for those people to become more, and those offspring to become more and more important and influential in European Union. And we see it. We see some of it now. I mean, I talked about in class, there's that party that I can't remember the name of that party that emerged to be pro-European party. That looks something like what's going on there. Okay, so that's why I mentioned, okay, but you're making this argument over the long term. Clearly, the European Union is avoiding having any more referendums as the EU elite move forward with more integration. And they're moving forward really fast. I mean, not really fast, but they're moving forward really, really intensively. compared to what they did in the past when, they, in 2012, they created basically a European International Monetary Fund, an international monetary fund for Europe. And they did it without any kind of referendums. I mean, that's a major increase in power of the European Union institutions. They're giving all this authority to the European Commission to sell Corona bonds, to finance debt spending, government fiscal, European Union fiscal spending to recover economically from the coronavirus pandemic. And again, that's been decided by the leaders of the European Union meeting face-to-face at the European Council and deciding to do that. They haven't had any referendums, so no more referendums. In politics, for a group to maintain a or its positive image, you can fix that up. I mean, that's really interesting how how those politicians are moving forward so blatantly. I mean, so obviously, it's clear. I mean, they don't want referendums, and we all know it, and we all know why they know it. We all know why they don't want referendums. And the people that would like a referendum and who are nationalistic, they know it too. So I guess we'll see what happens. If Marine Le Pen wins the election in France next year to become president of France, which she might, she's no longer talking about leaving the European Union. She said all she wants to do, she says, primarily is reduce immigration. She doesn't want people freely moving to France to live and work there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Especially if they have been supporting the group, then they start defining themselves as members of the group. Okay, so the European Union or the EU, I'll let you decide what you want to do. Oh yeah, I broke up that sentence, just too long there. Okay. Has accomplished many things as a group at a or on a. So again, I mean, it's just a matter of, either one's okay. It's just a matter of, just getting familiar with the prepositions. Many things as a group, a global standard that would have taken a single nation a much longer period of time. For example, countries in the European or the EU stopped charging custom duties when they trade with each other since the 1960s, period. They rejected or they reduced divided product. They rejected divided product making processes so that will cost less time and money, etc. The European Union or the EU has contributed to the member states to develop very quickly. Yeah, that's the problem. I mean, people they tend to assume, because the European Union never gets enough credit for what it achieves, because particularly when it engages in negative integration, when it breaks down barriers to trade, people often don't understand why their lifestyle is better than it could have been if that had never happened. So that's like the case. That's the case with Donald Trump and the United States and globalization, right? People complain about China taking jobs and Chinese exports being so bad for American industry and American workers. And that's the case because of the high profile costs of Chinese competitiveness or South Korean competitiveness. Like South Korea builds ships cheaper than just about anybody else. So that means that American shipbuilders go out of business. And so it's a big shock when a sector in an economy, and it's so obvious and clear when the sector of an economy in the United States is overwhelmed by competition. But the overall benefits of having really cheap electronics and really cheap goods, I mean, that come from globalization, that's something that's not so obvious because the benefits are wide in general, and they are, and the alternative to those benefits is not clear because they didn't experience them. The people didn't experience them. And that's the same thing with European Union. People just assume that they focus on what they're unhappy about, not what made them, what has made their lives better. because they don't understand how the European Union has made their lives better. You and I understand because we took economics classes. We took political science classes. We got a college degree. But somebody who's not so bright and doesn't have high education and doesn't pay attention to the news, they don't understand interdependency, is what I'm saying. They do not understand the fact of interdependency, even though it's there. And they just react nationalistically, by voting for Trump or voting for Brexit. So in a similar way, the European Union, or that you could, I'll let you choose what you want to do, could be opposed by citizens of the member states. This opposition, and I broke it up again, this opposition may emerge, this opposition would emerge when forcing member states to join European Union's collective actions that are inappropriate to specific member states. Yeah, so what do you mean by that, inappropriate? What do you mean by inappropriate? How do we know if they're inappropriate?
Oh, I meant by like,
I'll tell you how I think about it. It's inappropriate insofar as, for example, the decisional latitude or the decisional freedom of choice, the wideness or narrowness of the political freedom of choice of politicians is limited by public opinion in those countries, right? So it's inappropriate if I'm a democratic politician in Greece and I tell the Germans, I tell Angela Merkel, listen, Angela Merkel, I know what you want us to do, and I understand why you want us to do it, but the Greek voters will not allow me to do it. If you push us on this way, I'm afraid that those fascists, the Golden Dawn Party, will become even more popular. So you need to please, I understand what you want, and we should do that, but we can't do it as quickly as you want, and we need more help. So that's what, and that's maybe one of the elements of the theme in the textbook, right? That these elites in Germany and Greece and Italy, they're all liberal democratic politicians, professional liberal democratic politicians who have built their entire careers effectively participating in post-World War II democracy, in social democracy in Europe, in Western Europe. And so they understand and are sympathetic to each other's political dilemmas as politicians who live and breathe and dream public opinion. They don't breathe without thinking about its impact on public opinion in their country. And they understand each other from that point of view. Not to mention also they know what the bad alternative is, like Nazism and fascism in the past. We either cooperate or we go to war. And that means we have to commit ourselves to cooperation. And so that's what is inappropriate means, right? But even in the Greek case, that changes over time. That the Greeks have accepted more immigrants to stay in Greece, and certainly I think it's now up to like 350 billion euros. That country of 10 million people has gotten from the European Union, mostly Germany, 350 billion euros since this is before the coronavirus pandemic. This is for the sovereign debt crisis. That's a lot of money for 10 million people. And they got it. And to get that, they had to make all these compromises, including the fact that they have to accept the immigrants and keep them there when they come into Greece, make them stay in Greece. And they even overrode Greek nationalism regarding Macedonia. They got the Greeks to agree to accept that country in the north of Greece can use the word Macedonia in its name. So that was the compromise. It's now called the Republic of North Macedonia. The Greeks are not fully happy with it. The Macedonians are not happy with it because the Macedonians want to be called Macedonians and the Greeks don't want them to be, but that shows, I'm showing Greek nationalism. Nationalism doesn't rule everywhere, all the time, right? Situations change. So Europeanization will continue to emphasize European identity, and it will either lead to another Brexit or deeper integration. Good point. Personally, because national identity for many people is one of the biggest considerations, so it seems evident that either more Brexits will happen or European will be less influential by the end of the 21st century. What's this? Personally, because Oh, so you think the European Union is going to reduce its authority because they're afraid of nationalism in these countries?
Yeah, and it could lead more Brexit in the European Union.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we'll see what happens. I heard an interesting story today about how it looks like Scotland might well be moving towards another referendum on whether or not to stay in the United Kingdom, like they had in 2014, because of Brexit. So it's not, the point is, just to conclude here, it's not even clear what leaving the European Union means for Britain. Because let's say Scotland leaves the United Kingdom and enters the European Union, and it's so closely tied to English economy. I mean, it's going to be more like Switzerland. Switzerland's not part of the European Union, but it's still integrated into Europe.
I think it's more about like national sovereignty.
Or the symbolic belief in national sovereignty, right? Norway's not in the European Union, but it's formally, sovereign, but it's so closely integrated with the European Union. Switzerland's not in the European Union, but it's so closely integrated with the European Union. But we can say Switzerland is neutral. It is not part of the European Union. It's not part of NATO. It's not even part of the United Nations. We are sovereign, like we've always been sovereign. Yay! And so it's a theater. Politics becomes theater, acting. To appeal to those people that don't want the closest cooperation, but still they're still very much integrated. Okay, well, let me send this to you, and so let me go back there and go like this, and go like this, and go like this, and go up here to here, and we go here, and go like that, we go like this, and here it is. Okay, do you have any questions?
I think it's good.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
See you next week. Bye.
Yep.